Abdullah Noor Rahman II. I think the number one thing to remember is that they don't have to relive what we know. I can't relive the 60s. I don't know what it is to be around when George Wallace was governor. I don't know what it is for, dogs to be released. The closest I came was when a fight happened up at the Kingston Mall. And it's before we had cell phones. And a police officer pulled a dog out on my mother when my mother was trying to get to me, and I was 15 years old. And I remember not being afraid of that dog. I remember not being afraid of anything except my mother. And before I knew it, I was standing between the dog and my mother at 15. That's not something you can teach to another generation, because the way it is now, their generation, they have the anger, they have the understanding of what's right and what's wrong. They understand that they're being treated differently, but the narrative has changed. The way in which we identify what's right and wrong, the way in which we identify what manhood is, the way in which we identify what success is. YouTube wasn't around then. So now people are saying, okay, my access to success is how many views I get. But the problem is my validation is also based on that. My validation of my identity is now connected to somebody behind the screen who's deciding whether they like me or don't like me, or if I look good enough or anything else like that. And you're also talking about dealing with a generation that is basically dealing with the output of the over-sexualization and colonial mindset of dealing with what women of color have been and the following of those kind of things. I think we have to not assume that it's not meaningful. I think that we have to understand that exposure is a very big piece of any learning. And that if your exposure to the more base natures of all men and all women, the entertainment value of your existence is on Front Street. If we limit them to being millennials with no understanding, if we take away the fact that they are human beings with integrity, with values, with dreams, then we are prescribing and taking the role of the oppressor, which is darker. We have to admit the fact that they're going to have to learn who they are one way or another. They don't get to shed the skin. They don't get to decide how people view them, because race is not a self-identified thing. It's something that somebody else assigns to you when they look at you and say, oh, that person's black, that person's not. Ethnicity may be something that you know, the culture may be something you deal with, right? And we see people doing all the different concepts of what their cultures are. We don't have to get them to understand. They understand oppression very well. To stand over top of individuals who are feeling that somebody's telling them what they can't be and that they are not enough yet. Remember, we're talking about teenagers in my spot, right? We're talking about young adults as well, 14 to 17, 18, sometimes 19. We're telling them that they don't know, we know better. Therefore, everyone they've ever come in contact with, mother, father, this and that, was not enough to get them where they're going to be. So listen to me, I know better, even though I've never opened my eyes under your roof once. So I don't have to teach them about oppression. I don't have to teach them about systemic racism. I don't have to teach them about the black history and the struggle. What I have to get them to understand is the fact that if you're going to be a shield and an advocate the same way you are for your little brother when he walks home, or the same way you are when you feel as though somebody is reading somebody too loudly in the hallway, or you're sticking up for yourself, that there is no shield in battle that gets out clean. And that is black history. But to some, it's another black thing that we're forced to do in February because, that's what we have to do to keep the peace. It can never be me. I wake up black, go to sleep black, my son is black, my wife is black, my legacy is black. And it doesn't mean that I hate anybody else. I don't want to change my skin. I don't want somebody to look at me and tell me, well, I don't see color. Why? Because you don't see my blemish of being black? Because you don't see my color? See my color, it's not my blemish, it's my history. The American flag is not our flag. Of course it is, we built the country. So my students will come to school every day, salute the flag, it's your flag. But the reality of the situation is, these kids cannot be prescribed blackness and black manhood and black womanhood and black transgender or black LGBTQ. The reality of the situation is that you are you and I am me. And we're going to walk this spinning rock 3 from the sun as long as we can. And when we go, leave everybody better. And do it smiling in your black skin, your brown skin. But celebrate your brothers who came from everywhere. Because you can't be out there trying to prove what you're not while you're trying to prove what you are.